Before we get started this morning, I want to go through a few housekeeping items. First of all, we'll be recording this session and it'll be available to you within 24 hours. So if you're interested either in reviewing the presentation or you want to share it with one of your colleagues, you can forward the link to them and they can do so. Secondly, I will be offering a special offer for an intelligent automation workshop for those that are interested, have identified opportunities for automation in their organization. We can help you get started. And third, this is a listen-only webinar. So if you have any questions as we go through this session, as illustrated on the slide here, you can click on the question bubble and you can enter a question into the box down below. From there, we will have time at the end of the session to review the questions and provide answers for you and anyone who has any questions. Thanks everyone for attending today, and hope you find this session valuable. Quick introduction to the VersaFile team. We have been delivering and supporting ECM solutions for business process automation for over 20 years. Today, there are many disruptors that are changing the way that we do business, either through the emergence of cloud infrastructure services or with the infusion of artificial intelligence and the emergence of robotic process automation. Box obviously is a part of this disruption, and VersaFile is excited to partner with them in delivering content solutions in this new world of intelligent content, process, and automation. In today's webinar, we're going to talk specifically to financial process automation and AP processing with SAP. As your presenters today, I am Greg Kaut. I bring over 20 years of practical document and business process automation experience with a focus on financial process automation. With me on the call today, I have Greg Soltis, Director of Product Management for docuflow. Greg brings over 20 years of practical experience in helping customers implement SAP in their organizations and delivering integrated business solutions in finance, HR, and CRM. So why does financial process automation continue to be a key focal area for automation? Well, for starters, it can improve cash management, provide better governance, and provide better overall and accurate visibility to financial liabilities and processing. Key drivers can be inefficient and manual data entry, decentralized processing and approval chains, or lack of overall visibility into the invoice process and the outstanding liabilities. These factors can create significant challenges and result in real dollar cost factors such as missed or lost invoices, which can often lead to redundant processing and even duplicate payments to vendors. For public companies, the lack of visibility can result in missed or inaccurate liability reporting, impacting both future audits and even resulting in reinstatement of earnings. Trying to solve these challenges, often an organization will look at a first step to either centralize or move to a shared services model. But due to the fragmented nature of invoice processing, the disparate sources and distributed approval chains, it often requires an organization to move to an electronic processing model. While significant effort, it will present the first real opportunity for automation in your organization and to extend through collaboration and bring overall governance. So really, what comes out of the promised land? It really, through financial process automation, organizations can reduce processing costs, shorten processing times, reduce late payments and fees, and provide better visibility and effectively manage cash flow. The key factors in achieving this promise are the digitizing the process and moving from paper to electronic and applying OCR to identify and extract key invoice data. Integrating to the master record, in this case, SAP and the ERP system, to match and validate key data, including vendor information such as PO line item information for matching to the PO, tax and discount terms, and also to ensure that data is accurate for downstream approval and processing. By extending out and integrating into content services, you can extend collaboration and access to supporting documents either externally through solutions such as Box or directly from the ERP system in what we call hyper-connected content. Process integration with the ERP system can help drive policy enforcement and to drive further automation through automated two-way and three-way matching and integrated approval workflows. So from our perspective, how do we see financial processing automation? How do you get there? Well, first, it's going to start with multi-channel invoice and data capture. We can be used to automatically identify and extract key metadata from invoices as they come into the process. Secondly is using early SAP archiving to link the digital invoice and metadata in Box, automatically create the SAP entry, transfer the data, and set the invoice link. Next, we can initiate the matching and approval processing by automatically executing the matching process, such as two-way matching, to support straight-through automated approvals and processing, or you trigger an SAP or Box workflow for invoice routing and approval and exception processing. The final phase is payment confirmation and vendor payment. And here we'll generate the payment voucher, automatically archive the voucher into Box, and then send a payment notification to the vendor as well as forwarding the payment. With our solution, docuflow, we achieve this by streamlining the payment and reconciliation process, resulting in lower cost to process an invoice and take advantage of early payments discounts when applicable, improve cash flow by forecasting and giving visibility, mitigating the financial risk, and maximizing cash utilization. Finally, increase control and reporting, resulting in less payment errors, overpayments, and duplicate payments. So what is docuflow? Docuflow is an integration system that quickly extends SAP to Box for two-way intelligent content, process, and automation solutions. By supporting both ECC and S/4HANA, docuflow is SAP Certified and reduces costs and increases your team's efficiency with seamless SAP archiving, linking, and process automation across your Box platform. By using cloud technologies, docuflow allows your teams to shift their focus on what's most important, your business. So when we look at docuflow and the key capabilities, it's really a platform of tools designed to help you achieve financial process automation where processes are kept digital from end to end. Manual tasks are automated and your SAP content is available at your fingerprints whenever you need it, when you need it. We list some of the key capabilities on the screen, but the key highlights are the bidirectional metadata transfer between SAP and Box, which allows us to trigger any content services function based on processes and SAP events, or trigger any SAP function based on process-based and content services events, workflows, or processing. We can also provide automated document linking from Box content services to SAP, support for both early and late archiving, and all of this is configurable and code-free. Finally, we provide the visibility through enabled SAP reporting, including audit reporting, period end and reconciliation reports, financial investigation reporting, and external bundle creation for non-SAP users inside and outside of the firewall in Box. So how does docuflow work? Well, for all end users inside and outside of SAP, life is easy and simple. Either add content directly into Box or via your standard application, Office application, or simply drag and drop the content directly into the SAP record. And docuflow automatically adds content and metadata to the repository and creates a relationship and link to the document in the SAP record. Make changes to the metadata in either application and docuflow will keep it all synchronized along with the proper SAP security. If configured, the above task could be then used to trigger an automated process such as using the document metadata to create an accounts payable invoice and kick off or initiate an approval workflow. So specifically, how does the underlying technology work? So we begin by ingesting content into Box and content services, using automation and machine learning to automatically provide metadata. The docuflow microservices, rules, and mapping engine are automatically triggered to create the invoice within SAP and fire off the associated workflow and tasks for approvals. SAP users can update content, conduct approvals, and add additional supporting documentation directly into SAP. Alternatively, this could be done outside of SAP using Box Relay or user-friendly workflow and for a user-friendly workflow and mobile experience. And docuflow archives the supporting documents in metadata box, synchronizes any status updates, metadata updates across both systems. In summary, docuflow provides for a complete end-to-end digital content archiving, linking, and automation solution. So let's talk about some of the examples where we've helped clients realize financial process automation with docuflow. One of our customers is a great example of a business that went through digital transformation of their entire finance department. docuflow is used to help the company get to the state of hyper-connected content both inside and outside of the organization, streamlining processes and automating tasks to the point of reducing the cost of processing of an invoice by 62%. Faster turnaround on processing and requests, providing vendors more options for faster service. In another example, docuflow enabled our client to save costs by reducing the manual data entry into SAP, reducing the duplicate and invoice errors, and achieve faster invoice processing times through intelligent automation. Further, docuflow was used to digitize the audit management process. The previous process was labor intensive and included multiple internal and external audit requests per month, consuming resources and taking up to 3 weeks to manually retrieve thousands of documents per audit. docuflow's capabilities helped save cost time by automating the SAP audit report and allowing digital links to securely retrieve and share thousands of documents, supporting both the audit and the information with auditors. docuflow's dynamic scalable architecture helped the client digitally transform their entire finance department. So let's take a look at how docuflow and intelligent automation work together to bring value-added solutions for our customers. In this demo, we're using Abby FlexiCapture, a leading intelligent document capture vendor and solution. This can be any capture solution. However, Abby's application of machine learning and pattern recognition helps drive further automation and simplified audit administration. So let's start with the intelligent document capture process. It's initiated through multi-channel capture, meaning that it's ingestion of content into common business process regardless of the source, whether it's paper, email, or from a mobile device. Once the content is captured, we're going to use machine learning to provide classification to identify the type of document that's being processed, whether it's an invoice, a purchase order, or a credit memo. By using machine learning, Abby can quickly learn new document layouts and changes to existing vendor invoices through normal processing. Once we classify the document, we then can use the extraction rules and pattern matching to extract and identify key information on the invoice document to enable downstream processing. This can include the invoice number, PO line items, total, and even the line detail in the invoice. Finally, verification is used to allow for human review for low confidence or documents that have exceptions. And once we go through this process, we'll go ahead and export the documents out into Box, and docuflow will then initiate the process within SAP. So let's take a quick look at what this looks like. So I have here, this is actually an administration tool, but it's a good way to show the example and allow you to see the process as it goes through. So I have a batch here that I've created. It's empty, and I'm going to go ahead and load some images into it. I've got a couple of invoices here. I'm going to bring those in. So while it's loading this information, it's going to go into the background process. You're going to see the invoices appear. And you'll notice they're unprocessed at this point. At this stage, it's going through the classification and the extraction process. So as it's processed, you'll see the status of the documents change. You'll now see that they were identified as invoices. We have one that was rejected and one was valid. The valid invoice would be acceptable and would be eligible for straight-through processing. Let's go ahead and take a look at the first rejected invoice. As we look at the invoice, we can see that it identified the vendor, was able to pull back the vendor ID number. It located the location of the invoice number, the date, and properly formatted the date for the system. We also identified the subtotal and total amounts. And what the exception is while it identified the line item, there is no purchase order number for this invoice. So it's just asking me to verify that it's valid. And once I go ahead and validate that information, you'll notice that the status of the invoice is changed to valid, and it's now ready for export into Box. Let's take a look at the second invoice here. Again, identified the vendor, the invoice number, and the date, but you'll notice here that it identified the purchase order number, and it also was able to match the PO line item to the actual line item in the purchase order. So at this point, both of these documents are ready for export, and we'll go ahead and select export. Normally, this would be an automated process that would run in the background, and once we initiate it, it's complete and run through. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Greg Soltis to continue the demo.
Thanks, Greg. We'll just wait for a minute and I'll share my screen. All right, as we see, I'm looking at the Box native interface and we see the two invoices that have been added by Abby. And looking at these two invoices, for example, the PO based, moving over to the metadata tab in Box, we'll see there are the values that were indeed captured during the ingestion process and added as metadata within Box. You'll also notice that there are some fields left empty. Well, docuflow, once it processes this inside of SAP, as was discussed earlier, will be able to back populate that metadata from SAP back to Box along the life cycle of the invoice. Flipping over to SAP, let's go ahead and look at some of docuflow's capabilities within the SAP boundary. First, I'll just show a quick little administration panel. Here is where we see you configure the product, including the metadata transfer, and this also houses all of our utilities for migration, metadata synchronization, audit and compliance. Everything is done within a central configuration dashboard within SAP. Also, docuflow extensively logs all activity that goes in and out of your SAP system. This is very useful for administrators, for reporting, benchmarking, as well as when things go awry and there are any unhappy path scenarios, it'll all be reportable, searchable, viewable, and triageable from within the SAP boundary. So here we see a lot of data that came into our system, a lot of information is captured. I wanted to show you this real quick because we see that our inbound requests here, we even have the visibility into exact metadata that was brought from Box into SAP. And again, we're showing accounts payable today, but because docuflow is SAP module agnostic, the technology stack, how it works inside of SAP can be applied to all the modules and all your SAP business processes. You can start to think about the ability to have something happening in Box and doing whatever you want to do inside of SAP with the metadata from Box. Yep, we're going to trigger a workflow today. We're going to do accounts payable, but that could be creating contracts, updating statuses on a purchase order, triggering custom code, so on and so forth, all powered by the metadata from Box. So just wanted to show you that real quick. I'll go ahead and now jump over to the accounts payable side, and we'll just run our workflow tracking utility. And let's look at all the invoices that came in today. Let me go ahead and execute. And we'll see there the two invoices again that were captured through Abby. Now, as an example, we've configured docuflow to do a full automation approach to these invoices. And we see here our PO-based invoice has actually already not only parked and created the invoice inside of SAP, but posted it. There's a payment block associated with that. docuflow has recognized that and displays it on the tracking report. We see that on the non-PO side, which requires an approval, it has already also parked that invoice completely inside of SAP, generated a work item, routed it to the appropriate approver, and is waiting for that next step in that life cycle. I'm going to quickly go into that PO-based invoice for a minute. And by using the standard SAP drop-down menu path, we're going to see on the docuflow attachment list, there's that original invoice that resides in Box. So docuflow not only creating that SAP invoice, but also attaching that Box content. By double-clicking on the invoice, you're going to be navigated into your Box native interface and be able to view that document. Now, when we look at the metadata, because docuflow has already processed it, we'll see, sure enough, docuflow has back populated the SAP metadata into Box that it was configured to do so. The SAP invoice number, so on and so forth. The vendor name, a flag saying that it's linked to SAP, the invoice status posted. Again, that's just a sample. You get to configure all the different types of metadata that you want to send from SAP back to Box. With that, now I'm also going to go back and let's take a look at that other work item that's waiting for approval. So yeah, I can go ahead and approve that within SAP if I'm the associated approver. What I wanted to show quick is our ability from a docuflow perspective to be able to take workflow integration outside the SAP boundary and integrate with Box Relay. So bringing up my Box app on my smartphone, I'll see I have something waiting for me in my inbox. Here's a history of other activity that I've done, and sure enough, we see one that's waiting for approval. I can simply click on it to view the document, and I'm going to go ahead and approve that invoice. By doing so, I went ahead and the workflow integration using docuflow between SAP and Box is again bidirectional as with all of its integration. Docuflow has now recognized that external approval inside of Box and has gone back into SAP and will have pushed that workflow along. And if I go ahead and refresh, docuflow will come back into SAP and automatically post that invoice. One thing I wanted to show you as well real quick is Greg mentioned as well, we're showing kind of inbound processing to SAP, but at any point, any type of content generated from SAP out to Box, whether it be user-based or system-based, docuflow can handle as well. So let's go ahead and go back to that original MM invoice that we saw. And I'm going to go ahead and choose my particular SAP archive link doc type. And again, using any type, whether it be on a Mac or Windows, I'm just going to go ahead and drag and drop. You can drag and drop multiple files. Simply drag it into the white space provided by docuflow within your SAP transaction, and docuflow is going to store that in Box, link it to the SAP record, and send the metadata all with a simple drag and drop. Moving back to the attachment list, we now see there is the one that I just added. And again, to be able to view it in Box, simply double click, and you're brought up in Box. Taking a quick second to look at its metadata, just as with all process, docuflow's metadata capabilities are very strong. We see even in this case, the metadata is sent real time from SAP to Box. Moving back into SAP, I'm just going to go ahead and go back, refresh my report, and we see sure enough that external approval came back into SAP. Docuflow went ahead and automatically posted that invoice, and it's off for the payment run, showing again the art of the possible, that full automation from Abby to Box to SAP, back to Box, back and forth in bi-direction, and really that decreasing the life cycle of that invoice, and hopefully achieving such things as customer discounts and quick paying to your vendors. That concludes the SAP portion of the demo. I'm going to pass the ball back to Greg to complete the webinar.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate that. So let's go ahead and go back and talk a little bit about how docuflow brings value for customers with Box. Really, what we're delivering here is allowing you, the organization, to quickly deploy and configure, not customized, integration, solving your immediate SAP content challenges, and lowering the total cost to implement the solutions. Leveraging existing Box and cloud services, immediately reducing costs by avoiding and eliminating legacy ECM licenses and sustainment costs. The built-in migration tools allow you to migrate your content from an existing system to Box with no end user impact, and automating all that you typically follow on manual processes in SAP, such as invoice creation and approval. In addition, it allows the business to align with IT and align with their strategies to reduce data center footprints and contribute to simplified but a secure infrastructure. So we have a few time left here for questions. If you want to go ahead, if you've submitted any, let's take a look here. See if we have any questions that have come in. I have a couple here. Look like these might be for you, Greg. So what the question asked is, what versions of SAP are supported?
Yeah, docuflow works with SAP ECC, with SAP S/4HANA, and SAP CRM.
Just a quick question now. What about success factors?
Success factors is a very exciting opportunity for us, and we're currently expanding our product footprint, and that is scheduled for Q1 of next year.
Okay, great. Another question here is, we mentioned the product works with other SAP modules. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, that's a great question. I tried to allude it to in the demo. But yeah, the base functionality of docuflow, really the core technology that provides that, that powerful integration between SAP and Box in both directions. That's really, again, business process and SAP module agnostic. So we work with all modules inside of SAP, based on that integration. Yeah, we have additional line of business solutions, as we showed today, accounts payable. We also have audit and compliance, the full migration utility, and much, much more. We just picked accounts payable today, but that all resides on that core technology that works across all SAP modules.
Okay. Question asked is the solution SAP certified?
Another good question. Yes, we are fully SAP certified and an SAP partner.
Okay, here's one more. Is SAP DMS supported?
SAP DMS is supported. We didn't show any DMS today, and it's an entire different game in terms of versioning, and it's a decoupled method of attaching content to and from SAP one-to-many using information records. The short answer, yes, docuflow supports both inbound and outbound SAP DMS integration.
Okay, and what versions of Box are supported?
From a Box perspective, an enterprise account is required. That enables the power of metadata, and docuflow requires that.
Okay, great. We have one more, and looks like this is one I'll take. Does docuflow support three-way matching? Yes, it does. Really, when you think about three-way matching, we're talking about matching to the line items and the invoices to the actual purchase order, and then aligning the purchase order to the receiver and the inventory management system or the order management system. And that can be managed either, whether that's all internal to SAP and the various SAP modules, including CRM, but it also, if it's external, we can provide that integration as well through docuflow. Give a minute here to see if we get any more questions. Okay. Great. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have a special offer to help you start with your automation journey. This is through a half-day automation first workshop where we'll help you assess your SAP content, process, and automation needs and provide you with a high-level assessment, a roadmap and strategy on how to implement the solutions, and a business case that's tailored to your specific needs. If you're interested, just contact us and we'll schedule a briefing to outline and schedule your workshop. It provides a great chance to get started on your automation journey. Thank you again for attending today's session. If you'd like further details or to schedule a workshop, please feel free to use any of the contact information listed. Thank you and have a great day.